The story I'd like to share pertains to my background and how I got to where I am today. Back in 2020, with barely a year of experience at the time, I was thrust into the pandemic at one of the epicenters of COVID, which was here in New York. At the time, I kind of just muscled through the pandemic. And you see, a lot of my upbringing is rooted in my family's culture. The son of two Filipino nurses, I had always been taught that resilience is fortified during the most arduous of times, and the pandemic was no exception. Even though I oftentimes felt like I was never enough for myself or for my patients. But I can attest that a spotlight can burn. It can magnify both the pain and the shame. When I originally chose to leave nursing, I felt immense grief and guilt. Grief for the life that I had spent building toward, grief for a degree that I had earned with literal blood, sweat, and tears, and ultimately guilt for leaving it all behind. And I think that goes very much aligns with what Gloria was saying about how a lot of people in my age group, I like to classify myself as a millennial, but a lot of people in my age group, there's this weight of what is the rest of my life going to look like, and how can I ensure that it is safe and prosperous in the future. Looking back, I see now that I made choices that aligned with what I needed at the time. And in leaving, I've also come to realize what I value and ultimately what calls me back as I'm going back to the ICU per diem or PRN. You see, I am content with where I'm at, and yet over the past few months, I have felt something is missing. And I suppose that is why they say nursing is a calling. While I've learned to heal critically ill patients, a bigger lesson I've learned is how to heal myself. And as I move forward in my journey and immerse myself back into the world of healthcare, I want to emphasize a few insights that I have gleaned. Number one, to care for one another sometimes looks like giving others and even ourselves the grace and forgiveness to leave difficult situations. And courage is learning when to acknowledge that enough is enough, but also courage can look like getting up and trying again. To empower our next generation of nurses and to heal from the wounds of the pandemic, I believe we must all be advocates of mental health and create those spaces that allow us to rest, to grieve, and to get up and try again. Tangibly, this might look like embedding nurses in other fields like politics to ensure safe staffing ratio laws are passed, or in tech to ensure that devices we use on a daily basis assist us instead of hindering us. To that end, I implore us all to consider the ways we can practice beyond the bedside and to ensure that we are practicing resilience beyond the pandemic. So thank you so much.